Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi, BiU Friends. First of all, let me express my sincere gratitude to Mr. Randeep Sudan, who have already been here with us to share about his knowledge, its insights about digitalization that we can do, that we can apply in our educational program. Now, it is an honor for us, Mr. Randeep. Welcome to Bina Insani University. Then let us give the floor to Mr. Randeep to introduce himself. Mr. Randeep, can you introduce yourself, please?
Thank you, Pak Indra. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here today at the Bina Insani University, and we had some very good interactions so far. Just to introduce myself, my name is Randeep Sudan, and I am currently working on a project on behalf of the Asian Development Bank for designing a program on work-based learning for students in Indonesia. Before working on this project, I have been working with a number of institutions, one being the World Bank, where I was leading their digital development unit for the bank. And prior to that, I worked with the government in India, where I was a member of the Indian Administrative Service. So my primary area of interest is digital strategy and transformation of societies using digital technologies. So it is in that context that I am very excited to be here to interact with the faculty and of course Pak Indra at this university, and I very much look forward to this university becoming very successful, in the years ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Randeep. Now, you have already shared with us before something about work-based learning. Can you explain further about this to our audience?
Sure. So we find that the labor market is witnessing a lot of disruption because of new technologies which are coming up. Especially if you look at artificial intelligence, you look at even things like generative AI, the expectation is that there will be a lot of churn and a lot of disruption in labor markets. So a lot of skills may become redundant while there may be the necessity to actually acquire new skills to be able to benefit from new opportunities. Now, if this is the sort of paradigm which is emerging, then education has to adapt and has to change with the times so that there is a close connect between what universities offer in terms of education and what are the needs of the labor market and what companies require in terms of skills and competencies. Now, to be able to achieve this connection, it is becoming increasingly important that there are opportunities where students can work on projects or can work on problems or on challenges which are being faced by the private sector. And as part of working on these different aspects, acquire skills which are actually in demand by companies and the private sector. Mm-hmm. So it is in this broad context that work-based learning becomes important. So we are trying to see what might be good ways in which these opportunities to develop skills in real-life contexts can be facilitated. And it is also important that these skills are acquired in a more global context, because the opportunities in the future will increasingly be global. And with new technologies, it will become much easier to plug in to opportunities which are outside one's geographical boundaries, so to speak. And especially with developments which are going on digital technologies, if you look at what's happening, even in terms of immersive technologies like virtual reality, augmented reality, or mixed reality, you see what is happening with new products like Vision Pro being launched by Apple. These all are pointers to an emerging world where geography will be history, right?
Borderless.
Yes, so it's a borderless world. And in that borderless world, job opportunities will increasingly be global, and one has to prepare the workforce and prepare universities and students to be able to benefit from those opportunities. Mm-hmm. And in that context, we need to devise new ways of integrating work-based learning with the regular educational programs, and do so in a manner which creates a more global mindset for students, which will become very important.
Mm-hmm. So, the internationalization program for the students, and also digitalization. So, how do we do the international internship? By using a digital platform. Do you have opinion about this?
Yes. So, for example, if one can work with student teams drawn from different universities, mm-hmm. which are geographically in different regions, and work for companies which are outside one's national borders, for example, mm-hmm. can provide some exposure, both in terms of what problems are being faced by companies which are outside of Indonesia, for example, mm-hmm. and also afford the opportunity of students from Indonesia working with students from other geographies, mm-hmm. maybe in Europe, maybe in the US, maybe in India, Australia. So these opportunities, the way that it could be done at scale is that you identify a problem or a challenge that you're working on with one or more companies, which may be international, mm-hmm. and then you work as part of student teams drawn from different universities to focus and converge on that one problem, identify solutions, maybe individually as part of, say, the Indonesian team, they find the solutions to a given problem, mm-hmm. and there are students from Europe who find solutions for the same problem. Mm-hmm. But at some point, you bring these teams together and exchange what is their thinking about the problem and what are the solutions that they are proposing, mm-hmm. so that then, out of that interaction, something which is of value for that company emerges. Mm-hmm. And this interaction itself between two teams which have been working on the same problem, mm-hmm. and are trying to find value for the client for whom they are working is a very valuable experience.
Okay.
So that is an approach, I think, which might be scalable using digital technologies, because students need not physically relocate to that company, mm-hmm. for whom they are trying to solve a challenge. Mm-hmm. They could remotely do market research, could do, all the relevant work, and connect using digital technologies and then find solutions.
Okay. Further talking about internship, that what we are doing so far, that we just give the students an application letter to be handed in to the company, and then the company will call them for giving them the opportunity to do the internship. And then after that, we score their performance by the report they make. So do you see some processes that should be inserted to make it more useful, more beneficial for this program? What is the missing here?
Right. So I think the issue which is central to this is that if you are to give an experience of solving a challenge to students for a company, then the company has to identify that challenge, and then you create a program around solving that challenge. Mm-hmm. Now the problem here is that you have to every now and then go to a company which has to do some thinking about what challenge it should offer where students could add value. Now, this is a process which has a degree of friction in it. It is not a smooth process because every time you have to think, something different and then consciously say that, okay, let's work on this particular project. Now, if we have to achieve scale, the process may have to be different. And one idea that is on the table is that every company would be thinking about what are the business opportunities and business risks that it is likely to confront in the near, medium and long term. Because it's in the very nature of business to look at opportunities and look at risks. So if we were to engage student teams with companies focused on just this particular issue of how do you identify the business opportunities for this company and the business risks in a time frame which is near, medium and long term, this would have a couple of benefits. Number one, students would have to be very broad spectrum in terms of their domain knowledge to be able to identify those opportunities and risks. Now, this broad spectrum, cross-domain thinking, integrative thinking, and being creative as part of that process is an enduring skill. It is applicable to any job that a student may subsequently take up, and it is applicable to any. Maybe it's a technical problem, maybe it's a marketing problem, maybe it's a production process problem. All this integrative thinking skill will apply in all types of situations. So that's one advantage, that you are imparting a very broad spectrum of skills, which is an enduring skill to students. On the other hand, you are creating some opportunities or exploring some opportunities for business where it can get into new directions. Now, that is also valuable for growing the economy if you think of it in very broad terms, because you may be engaging student teams, for example, with small and medium enterprises who do not have the bandwidth to hire expensive consultants to do this type of work for them. But the process, if it is able to define an opportunity which is of value to SMEs, that itself is a positive for the economy. And these are the units which create a lot of jobs eventually. So there are positive fallout, if you will, from this process. So that's again a plus. And of course, a third plus is that this constant engagement with industry and working on the future also would help to see that the curriculum of universities is more connected to what is happening in the business world out there. And to that extent, there's some feedback loop which is coming in. What is important for companies, what is not, what is a risk, what's an opportunity. And that itself may be a good feedback mechanism to see that the curriculum is kept current with what is the requirement out there.
So what is exactly the company expect from the intern actually?
Yeah, so the company would expect, for example, let's take an example. If there is a company which is saying that, look, I have all this data, and what might be a product or a service that I could offer with this data, and is there any other data out there which could be used as a complement to offer some innovative service, just for example.
Okay.
Now, what would happen is that following a process which is normally termed as strategic futures or strategic foresight, a student or a student team can follow a process in terms of identifying what might be those opportunities and what is the nature of this data, whether this data can be leveraged to realize those opportunities. And if you have to realize that opportunity, do you require further data which can be accessed, which might be publicly available for all you know? And suddenly, you have a good understanding, which is looking at data in a completely new and innovative way. It would help students to understand what data companies have, how they are currently using data, how this data could be managed differently, what might be alt data, which is outside the company, which could be leveraged to think about a particular problem and devise a solution for that. So the sky is the limit, because there's no limit here. You can be very creative in terms of what value you can bring to the company. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is that it should help the company to, realize some value. That would be the test of how effective this engagement would be.
So innovation, creation is very important in this.
Exactly.
Okay.
And if you force students, or I think force is not the right term, but if you encourage students to be thinking like that, and always think about what opportunities might be there, that discipline of thinking across domains and being able to think convergently on a problem to solve it is a very valuable skill. It is something which would, be very useful to them as part of their careers going forward.
Okay. Well, so amazing talk. So what is our conclusion today? I think we all agree that the company need to be competitive in the market.
Exactly.
So in order to be competitive, the students, especially for the intern, can contribute something here. Just help the company to solve the problem. Just help the company to create added value, with the hope that added value become uniqueness of the company. With the hope also the uniqueness become a competitive advantage of the company. With the hope also that the company can create remarkable business performance. So if that happens, then the company will accept the interns and will never consider internship is wasting of time, but more than like an investment for the future of the company. Exactly. This is just it, the discussion for today, and I hope we can meet in other occasion. And at last but not least, I just want to say thank you to Mr. Randeep Sudan for an amazing inspiration, and see you in other occasion. Bina Insani University, bigger, better, higher. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Pleasure.